Hi guys, how are you? This is Loise. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're well and safe wherever you are. Now, you know what? This debate is up in the air. A lot of you are asking me, Loise, is it still a good decision to come study in Canada? And if not Canada, where else should I go to seek an international education? And because of that, I'm thinking that I'll do this video and we're going to address 5 top destinations for international students around the world. And then I'll give you my view. I'm not as knowledgeable about other countries as I am knowledgeable about Canada. You know, I have studied Canadian immigration law. I practice here. I'm licensed here. So bear that in mind. So please, this is my opinion. But you know, I consult with a lot of people out there in other countries, and these people in these countries who always ask me, Loise, we still want to come to Canada. So anyways, keep it here. Let us have this discussion. 5 top international student destinations in the world. And I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I'm based in Calgary, Alberta. And please, this is not legal advice. Purely my opinion. That's my disclaimer, guys. So if you need legal advice, please head on to the Milele website. That is www.mileleimmigrationservices.ca and book a consultation there. I'll be happy to meet with you virtually and we can talk about your options and I can give you clarity. Okay, guys? All right. Now, factually, the top destination for international students, it's anybody's guess, is United States. Okay? Why? First, you know, in United States, it's a big country, a lot of schools, and a very high population. So the US still remains the topmost destination for international students. Okay? Now, what do I think about the US? As I said, I don't know so much about their laws, but then from my research, I know that if you go there to study, you need, for any country, you need to ask yourself, what is my end goal? And there's something I keep telling people. Before you decide on where to go study, ask yourself, why am I going to study in that country? And what is my goal? Do I want to go be a permanent resident? Do I want to go live there? Do I want to get a job post-graduation? Or will I get that credential and come use it back home? The US education is really good and well respected around the world. So if you're going to the US to get that credential that you can go and use back home to advance your career, that's a good place to go. Okay? All right. Of course, you know, the US has its own political issues, which I'm not going to drag into this video, but you know, that is up to your preference. Do you mind their political issues or not? If you don't, now that's personal, okay? One thing I know about the US is that their jobs have good pays, and especially in innovation, healthcare, and the STEM occupations, okay? And I believe because of those jobs, you also tend to get better resettlement, as in better residency options once you graduate in those fields, okay? Unlike other careers, not all careers, but I find that a lot of people who find a lot of success, who want to live in the US, after that they get companies who sponsor them. They are mainly in those fields, okay? One thing that a lot of people tell me, which is a disadvantage in the US, is the OPT. That is that visa that you get, the optional visa post-graduation, and it's usually 12 months. So you are working on a very limited time post-graduation to have figured it out. So what I've seen with a lot of people is that they have to keep enrolling back to school so that they can maintain status or even extend their status and their stays in the US. The problem with that, it ends up producing a lot of career students. However, you find that someone has so many credentials, they haven't settled. So the settling down is not as fast as maybe you would find in the next country that we shall discuss. The advantage of studying in the US is they speak English, and English is universal to a lot of countries and a lot of international students seeking an international credential, so you don't have that language barrier. All in all, I believe that the US is a good destination. Just make sure that you evaluate your options before going there and ask yourself, what is my goal and how will I become a permanent resident after that, if that's your goal. Okay, now number 2 is Canada. Yes, Canada is second best destination for international students. And one of the things that draw people to Canada, of course, the people, the diversity. What draws people here is, especially for people who want to settle in Canada post-graduation, is the postgraduate work permit and the ease of transitioning from international studies to permanent residence. That is like the biggest draw for Canada. So it has one of the best postgraduate work permits, which is between 1 and 3 years, depending on the course that you're taking. And there's even a chance to extend or even change your study, if it was 1 year, to 2 years, so that you can get a bigger postgraduate work permit, which allows you to get the Canadian experience that almost guarantees you permanent residence. It's not guaranteed, but almost guarantees you PR. You have to be smart on how you approach that. The other thing that draws people to Canada, of course, it's the immigration pathways. After the postgraduate, it's the immigration pathways for international students. There's lots of pathways, there's lots of PNPs, there's the Canadian experience class, there's so many pathways for international students, which kind of draws people who want to come and live here permanently post-graduation. Of course, we don't have any language barriers. English, again, is, except in Quebec, the rest of Canada, the language of study is English. Even just the language of conversation and, you know, just regular communication is English, okay? The downsides, these ones are quite recent. The downsides of coming to Canada are, you know, it's becoming expensive, especially with last week's release on the new cost of living, the doubled cost of living, and of course the housing crisis. If you guys have been watching news, we have had major crisis in major cities, not everywhere, please guys. So this crisis has been in Toronto, Calgary, and Vancouver. Overall, if you ask me, and I know I live in this country and I love this country, but overall I still think for people who want to settle, despite the rising cost of living, I still believe that this is one of the best places that you would come and study with the hopes of becoming a permanent resident. You find that also the time it takes for you to become a permanent resident and citizen in this country is, I think, the shortest out of the 5 countries that we shall talk about here. So you come study for 2 years, you work for another 2 years, you get PR, and 3 years after that you become a citizen. So you can achieve all this in under 10 years. You would be a citizen. Out of these countries, I don't see a country where you would become a citizen from studies to citizenship in such a short duration. Okay, so we're talking of what, let's say 2 years of study, some people, you know, 2 years of PR, or even 1 year of PR, depending 1 year of postgraduate, depending on your level of previous education. You could be becoming a permanent resident on your 4th year, and then you just have to live in Canada for another 2 years and you qualify for PR. So on your 6th year in this country, you could actually qualify for citizenship. Where's my brain today? Yes, you could actually qualify for citizenship. So you see, on your 7th year, you could be a Canadian citizen. Seriously, guys, what's better than that? Okay. Anyway, let's go to number 3. Number 3 is Australia. Australia is a really good destination. Come on, those guys have good weather. They have good weather. They have quality education. So it's a top destination for international students. And there is a few downsides though, and these downsides, I just get them as I said. I consult a lot with all of you, people from all countries. They're always booking consultations with me. So I talk to people who are studying in Australia and they're like, Loise, I still want to come to Canada. And I'm like, why can't you stay in Australia? And some of the challenges that these people give me is like immediately right now, Australia has announced new policies that are going to have like cut by half the immigrants intakes coming next year. And they're also going to tighten the international student visa rules from next year. So you find that under these new policies, students will have to provide a very high language test ability for them to qualify for their study permit. The challenge that also people tell me about is the postgraduate work permit in Australia. The way it's been designed, it's not super long like the Canadian one. So you find that people always have to keep enrolling. If you don't get a job in your career, if you don't have a PR pathway, they have to keep re-enrolling back to school to stay in status. And that kind of produces a lot of career students. I see so many people in Australia who have 3 masters. And I'm like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. You don't need 3 masters in Canada to settle down, like, because they're just trying to hold on to straws. However, Australia, some people have advantages over the others depending on your occupation. So there are people who tell me that depending on their occupations, it's easier for them to become PR. Also, if you're willing to go up in the rural areas, it's easy to become PR. But if you want to live in the main cities, that's where some challenges are. And therefore, as I said, I see a lot of people in Australia who have become those career students. And you know what? Being a career student, there's nothing wrong if you love to study. But you find that a lot of people are constantly, they're earning and paying back to school, earning and paying that money to school. So come on, at the end of the day, we all want to settle down and live our lives without that cloud of, oh my God, what do I do to stay here longer? You want that peace of mind. So Canada still comes up top, okay? Now, UK, my friends, yes. UK is also another top destination. Guess which is the toppest country as students in that country? Nigeria and India. Yes, lots of Nigerians are finding themselves in the UK studying. The UK study permit is not as strict as the US and Canada and Australia, so they are a bit lenient on their studies. I find that some people who even came to me, they didn't get the study permits here, or they felt that the requirements were too much. And they were able to be sponsored by third parties, and a lot of them end up in the UK as international students. English language, there's no language barrier, so that's also a positive. Now, what is the biggest pet peeve I hear from people in the UK? Oh my goodness. There are a lot of people who are studying in the UK, and all they tell me is the ability to get the job of your training post-graduation. That is the problem. So you find that there are people who have masters, people who have masters in other fields, but they all end up doing caregiving jobs. They tell me these are the only kind of jobs we're getting. So I think there's an issue with jobs post-graduation. And even just getting that employer who can sponsor you, that is also like a challenge for a lot of people. And you find that, yes, there's nothing wrong with having to do caregiving jobs. But again, we are human and we all need that personal satisfaction. Is your career giving you the satisfaction that you want? Because if you're going to study abroad and you are investing a lot of money, I believe at the end of the day, you still want to practice in the field where you studied in. Come on, there's a reason why you went to school to do that master's in, a master of science or in agriculture or whatever that you went to do. And then you realize that with that master's, you still have to go and do a caregiving job. And a lot of people feel very dissatisfied. That is what people tell me. So that is just my experience. And like in Canada, here a lot of students do get jobs in their areas of training, in their occupations of interest, and that's how majority of them are able to get PR. And of course, English is their language of instruction, so there's no language barrier. And yeah, so I believe that UK is still a good destination. It just depends on your preference there. Now, number 5 is Germany. Yes, I know you didn't see this coming, but Germany is a rising star on international student destinations. A lot of people are opting to go to Germany. Guess why? Almost a lot of people are opting to go to Germany. Free tuition. Can you believe it? Free tuition. A lot of universities are offering free tuition, not just for EU residents, but even non-EU residents. And those ones that don't offer free tuition, like, they have very low cost of studies in Germany. Okay, and of course you guys know that Germany is one of the major economies in Europe, so the quality of life is not bad. You're also able to study in English. However, now this is what everybody tells me. People who consult with me, they're in Germany, they are like, Loise, we want to come to Canada because we want to become PR. The frustrations they have is, number one, language barrier. Yes, they are like, you know what, yes, as much as you study in English, a lot of employers still want you to speak German for you to be employed. So if you're not fluent in that language, then you find that you're not employable, or you're not getting the jobs that you desire despite your high education. Okay, and because of that language barrier, of course, then there is a delay in getting the residency, because I believe these countries whereby English is not their language, you still have to learn their language to a particular a particular level of and then only then can you qualify for their residency. So that is the biggest pet peeve I've heard with people there. They have some good postgraduate work visa, but I think it's like 18 months. But all in all, the challenge, even if you take your family and your spouse has that work permit, a lot of people tell me we are not getting the jobs that we want just because of the language. So you find that then a lot of people just end up working in those healthcare jobs, the occupations that the Germans themselves don't want to take. That is where then a lot of international students and their spouses work. So overall, those are 5 countries. I believe they're all good countries to go study. Each has their own advantage. Each has something to offer. Come on. I still believe if your goal is to settle and become a permanent resident, US is a good option. Just evaluate your occupations. But Canada overall is still a good destination for international students. The one thing you have to think about though in Canada going forward, please think critically on the course that you're coming to study because of the recent changes in the express entry, my friend. And I'll be talking about that in my next video, guys. So thank you so much for subscribing. It was lovely seeing you. And guess what? It's almost Christmas. So Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye now.